Hello and welcome to another Codec Moments Podcast. I'm Andy Brown, and joining me today, as ever, is the delectable Dr. Matthew Holt.
Hello.
And the inedible Ali Cornwall.
Hello.
How you doing, boys?
All right.
Yeah, surviving.
Been a while since all three of us talked.
Yeah.
on the podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't ruin the illusion, but we were just talking 30 seconds ago before we started this. This is just a catch up, really, isn't it? We've not got any particular agenda today to discuss. Not after the last episode.
No, there is strictly no agenda, no strong opinions in any direction.
So welcome along. Nice to have you with us again. It's been busy. It's been a busy couple of months. We've just been off mic. We've been talking about the games we've been playing. I feel like I've slightly let the side down as you two are reeling off title after title after title. But I've put a few down on paper, and actually it's not as barren as I thought, if I'm honest.
You've been in the realm of DIY. You've been doing real life. Leveling up your painting skills.
Yeah, basically playing House Flipper IRL. We've been having an extension built, and it started in March, right? We've been planning this for well over a year, and we started in March where we broke ground and started to dig the footings, and we had a test hole dug and ready for building control to come out and sign off and make sure everything was tickety boo and that we could carry on digging all the footings. And that was the day lockdown happened. So yeah, the building inspector refused to come out until the end of May. And when they did come out, they spent 5 minutes looking at a hole and then left. So we had the best part of a 3-month delay, all for a 5-minute. Yeah, that's blue clay, no problem. So thanks. But anyway, yes, it's all been going along. We've actually got proper rooms now and plaster on the walls, and unfortunately, as a result, my wife is making me paint everything all the time. So if I've been absent, it's because I'm up a ladder, contemplating whether I want to walk down it or jump off. But God, I hate painting. It's so tedious. Anyway, so that's my trials and tribulations. What about yourselves? What have you been up to?
Not much. Just working and playing video games and messing around with the new wheel that Logitech sent me. So
you see, that's pretty significant, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So since the last time I think we recorded, it's a bit weird. You guys will appreciate this, and maybe some of the listeners will as well, that you kind of get these emails out of the blue, and sometimes, more often than not, they're too good to be true. Normally it'll be like, oh, do you want to do this? And then they either it turns out to be nothing, and it's just, they just disappear, or they go, oh, sorry, we've run out of numbers now. We've hit our target.
Yeah. Or often it's if it come down to London is the other one.
Well, yeah,
actually, that's mostly what we get.
But no, yeah. So they sent me the Logitech G923. Got it on the rig. I've had a race with Matt, Mark, and Nick last weekend on the Friday on the PS4, which was good. And yeah, just getting used to it. I've got a video coming out, and I'm also going to do something on the website as well. Just what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and the tests and stuff. But I don't rate the True Force stuff to an extent. It does add a little bit, but the problem I had initially, because it is pretty much plug and play, but it felt like it was trying to vibrate itself off the stand, and it wasn't floating my boat. And I know you guys were like, "Oh, how are you getting on with it?" And I'm like, "It's okay." But I've basically just dialed it all back, apart from the actual force feedback, and it's a lot better now.
Right. So the True Force is basically where it not only takes the force feedback data, but it also takes like the audio signal and other cues from the game, and then translates that into a kind of motion on the wheel to give you not just the feedback through corners or over bumps, but to give you more of the natural feel of how the car is running. Is that right?
Yes, kind of. Although it doesn't really do it doesn't really do force feedback. It's more vibrations.
It's like the engine hum, isn't it? The startup, that kind of stuff that could feel through the wheel.
I'd seen a video of it on YouTube where somebody was basically saying, "Look, I haven't actually got any game audio running here. This is just all the noise from the wheel, and it did sound just exactly like the car revving up down the straight.
Yep.
And
but it's not just those noises either. So I was playing Gran Turismo Sport, and it works really well. And there's not a lot of settings, if any at all, really, in GT Sport, which I find very weird. But anyway, and when you've done an event or whatever, and you get your miles and your points and all that, you can hear all that coming through the wheel, which is weird.
And am I right in thinking there's not huge numbers of games supporting it at the moment?
There's more and more coming through, but yeah, it varies, especially the dual clutch function and stuff like that. I think there's more now than what there was when I got it.
Yeah, has that only been like a week as well from the point of us recording this?
Yes.
So the patches are coming quickly then.
Yeah, and it works really well. The one thing I'm really impressed with is the Logitech G software. So you obviously plug it into a PC and you can do the changes, and if you're playing a PC game, you get to map all the buttons. And coming from Thrustmaster, it's a lot more intuitive and a lot more user-friendly. I know the high-end wheels have got this problem as well, that the software just isn't that user-friendly. It's like a program has just gone, there you go, you want to change the wheel, there you go, I've done this for you in 10 minutes. And it's a bit weird. Whereas the Logitech G stuff is a lot more intuitive, and there's a lot more pictures and different things. So that's really nice, and a breath of fresh air to be able to change them. But yeah, so far I'm enjoying it. It's still on my rig. We'll be racing again tomorrow.
The software, the user interface is good. How does it feel compared to your Thrustmaster TX?
Okay. The brake pedal, I think, is better than what normal stock brake pedals are, but not as probably as sensitive or as sharp as my load cell. But then they are expensive-ish add-ons that you add to it. Yeah. But it has got a lot of resistance to it. It feels okay. I don't think the force feedback in it, and I can't find anything for the review that I'm writing up about the actual newtons that the force that goes through it, how much it's actually got in it. Because I think my Thrustmaster has got more power to it.
Yeah.
I think it's about 2.5, isn't it? Is what they said.
Yeah,
or hinted at. I don't think they've actually released the official figures, but
there's nothing in the statistics of it or the specifications, which is weird. But when you look at the actual back end of the wheel, so where you get your force feedback from, I think my Thrustmaster's almost double the size of the back end of. So it's bound to have more power. But it's a really nice wheel. There's a few just niggly things that I don't like the fact that all the buttons are black. So if you're driving in dim light, and they're all, until you get used to it, it's like I don't know what I'm pressing, and different things, and it's a bit.
It's a fair comment, yeah.
If you're driving and you want to do DRS, and I was saying to Matt about this, I've got reasonably sized hands, they're big-ish. Not I'm bragging, but to get from holding the wheel to pressing DRS or to press your overtake button, you almost have to take your hand off the wheel.
Yeah, it isn't easy, is it?
No.
It's the same layout as the G29, and the G29 at least has the colour, so you don't get the dim light bit of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the old rim on it, that it does take a bit of a stretch. It's not a natural thumb position.
Yeah, and I just thought that obviously I'm new to the Logitech stuff, so far I'm impressed with it. The price point, it might be a bit too expensive, although I think it has dropped since it's been released and they've realised where they need to pitch it. If it was your very first wheel, it'd be really good. You'd be blown away, I think.
Price-wise, because it's $350 when I saw it earlier.
I think initially they pitched it originally at $450.
I think it was always planned to come out in the north of 300. It's interesting because I think the sort of teardown info I'd looked and watched a few videos on is the true force has kind of been added to a G29. Everything else is sort of stock.
It's just a different
the
PCB.
chipset's different, isn't it? That's what they're saying.
For the true force bit, but
the motors are the same. It's
the same componentry and the same shells and everything else, even the same wheel, even though the buttons are different colours. It's what you can get for I say 150 quid because I paid 150 for mine.
Yeah,
but I think it's about 200, isn't it? On average, if you look around at the moment, it's about 200 quid for it. So it's almost, I get what you're saying, it's almost overpriced And I don't really understand why it isn't a little bit cheaper, given how close it is to the previous
Yeah,
models.
because you could almost go for a Thrustmaster, which is going to give you more force feedback, but you won't get the 3 pedals. But then I'd argue, if Andy was to buy a wheel, would he ever need to use the clutch pedal?
I've been looking because you guys have converted me to racing games, which I never thought would happen. But I have genuinely been looking at wheels this week. This is why I know the specs of this Logitech 923, because I'm interested. I can tell you as well, Matt, that the 29 is currently going for £215 on Amazon. The prices are slightly inflated at the moment because I think there's been more demand for them during the COVID thing. There's a global pandemic. I don't know if everyone knew, but you can't really get hold of the Thrustmaster T300 wheels anymore.
No, I did spot that because we were having a bit of a Hangouts conversation because I've gone to the point of actually measuring my Playseat Challenge folded up and sending the dimensions to Andy because he's going to build a storage area in his office for it.
It was that moment, wasn't it? It was apropos nothing at all. How wide is that when it's folded up?
So I ended up having a look because it was that same kind of thing. Is which one do you go for on a budget? And for ones where you're not serious about sim racing, but you do want something that's going to do a sensible job. And noticed that I went as far as Amazon, but no Thrustmasters available. But the G29 still was. So I imagine that will disappear at some point as well, and you'll only get the choice of the 923.
But this is the point where I've been listening to some other like YouTube videos and stuff, and somebody was talking with the Logitech reps in Australia, and certainly it sounds like the plan is for the G29 to continue alongside for the time being.
Oh, right.
And and what was interesting you said about the pedal, the braking pedal felt pretty good. That's one of the changes they've made. They've made it a progressive spring. Instead of the kind of standard one with a bit of rubber, they've actually made it a progressive.
It's progressive with the rubber in it, I believe, because I've swapped the springs on all my pedals, and I've gone for a progressive on the brake.
Yeah,
and you keep the rubber in there so that you have got that ultimate resistance at the top end.
But I'll be honest, and this is the weird thing. I am probably going to end up going G29, like you. Having looked at, I'm a big fan of Camel, and having looked on there, I think that £215 isn't a great price point for it. And if it comes down in offer, if we have a Black Friday or we have an Amazon Prime Day, I'll keep an eye out for it then. But with the 923 being £350, and then thinking, well, for that money, you could get a Thrustmaster wheel, but they're not really available, or they don't have good availability. That even got me looking at like the Fanatec CSL Elite, because it's not that much more expensive than the 923, which seems crazy.
Yeah, that's the point that I've made on the article that I'm writing up, is that they've pitched it at the wrong market. I think if it was recommended retail price is $250, and then obviously retailers can sell it a little bit cheaper than that, I think that would be perfect, and I think that would undercut the Thrustmasters, and you'd go, well, do you know what? It's because it is a really nice wheel, and I would recommend it for beginners. It's just that, or for people that want to get into the more simmy side of things and get a wheel, it's just a little bit too expensive. It's like you say, it's starting to get into that Fanatec price, and they're direct drive wheels, and they are phenomenal compared to.
No, I mean the CSL Elite is belt driven.
Is that still belt driven?
That's not direct.
At the price, because this is one of the things that I was watching. That the thoughts were that the original plan for the next Logitech wheel was a direct drive, but they've kind of plugged the gap with this to capitalize on the sim racing, because the direct drive bit is too far away for them. So I don't know at the moment which way it's going to go. I imagine there will be new wheels coming with the new generation of consoles in the next year.
Yeah.
So that might be the next step on, and then the price point will seem sensible as a stepping stone, because you're talking $500-600 it'll be, won't it, for a direct drive? I'd have thought.
It feels like a next gen stopgap. Like we know the next gen of consoles are coming. Here's a reminder that these will still work with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, and but like you said, it just does feel like a weird market position to have it just that much. where you're just like, well, for an extra 100 quid, a little bit more, I could get the entry level Fanatec.
Yeah. So compared to the Thrustmaster as well, I was saying this to Matt the other night, is what I do like about the Logitech is all the buttons when you plug it into a console actually do something, and you can use the entire console with it. You can navigate it all without plugging a controller in. Whereas on the Thrustmaster, they've put extra buttons on which you can only use on a PC because the other buttons just map to the same button again when you plug it into an Xbox, which is just a complete waste. But no, the wheel is really good. I just don't know why they didn't get someone that actually, I'm going to stick my neck out here, that actually races to use it, if you're with me. And if they're just mocking the other one, why not move the buttons? Why not just say to someone, what do you think? Well, do you know what? If you move these buttons on the outside and made the LED strip a bit bigger, because I don't look at it because it's like below me and I'm looking at the TV or the monitor or whatnot, and just tweak it a little bit. If you've got the opportunity to tweak it.
Yeah. It is interesting given how many sim racers and professional drivers we've seen over the last few months who are using the G29.
Yeah.
As well for the PC but usually when they're racing on PC, especially when they were doing the virtual Grand Prix, the number of F1 drivers who were actually using the G29 on the PC setup. Now, no doubt some of those will have been sent them. So, it's a nice bit of publicity.
Or
for
what they could only get hold of.
Yeah, but they were doing it, weren't they? I don't remember. I saw lots of Fanatecs and I saw lots of Logitechs. I don't remember seeing any Thrustmasters, if I'm being fair. They have already got the publicity. Why not get one of those guys to just put a little bit behind it?
Yeah, just send one to Lando Norris and say, what do you think to this? What do we need to change? What do we need to make it better? I mean, I understand it's more of a GT style because it's a traditional round wheel. Yeah. But it is a good wheel. It's just priced a bit too expensive for the market that it's aiming towards.
So, 20 minutes of wheel talk. Do we need to move on to something else?
Yes, we do.
Now, that's a feature in and of itself, isn't it? It needs a jingle. Wheel talk.
Because, and in fairness, you gave it a good tryout last week on F1 2020.
Yep.
Oh, that's a game I've played.
So there we go. There's your segue.
Nice. Oh, you guys are so slick.
So I guess the big thing is Andy's still playing it, and I've picked it up on the PS4, and we've got 2 new people join the league, so there's now 5 of us in the league.
It's good fun. I really enjoy it, and also I scored an amazing 8th place in our last race. Yeah, I only scored an 8th place because the AI was playing for me. I just got a bit too fighty, and actually, I'll be honest, I've been playing a lot more when I've had the opportunity in the past week or so, and I'm actually able to now kind of race with the AI without having terrible fights and spinning. I consider that a marked improvement.
Yeah, my excuse was I was getting used to the new wheel, but I did put the fastest lap in and put it on pole. Was it on pole? Oh, no, Nick was on pole, wasn't he?
No, you were on pole. You were on pole by more than a second.
Then he put it in
your pole lap was stunning. Your start was not stunning.
Yeah, I lit those tyres up like a bitch.
Yeah, and then I had a race out front. I got hit by Mark once as he misjudged his braking zone. In fairness, it was only a small tap. It was an interesting race. I've got to call him out because we haven't talked about it, but I have really no idea when we were doing a quarter race distance, 1-stop race, that they both pitted twice.
Yeah, and still out in front of me.
Yeah,
I think
it was a little bit odd. If you're listening, guys, we'll pick this up, the next time we race after recording this, just to figure out why did you pit? You should have stayed out.
From what Mark was saying while we were racing, is he was. I think some of it was because he was on your gearbox for such a long time, and I think he just shredded his tyres. I think the game is that level of realism that if you are going for the fastest lap, you're going full throttle, your tyres are just going to go.
This is what I was saying to you, actually. This is what I was saying to Matt the other day, because I've had 2 races where I was actually playing and I wasn't painting, where I've had incidents, I've spun it early in the race, and I've fought really, really hard to get back up through the pack to a reasonable position. And on both occasions, I've lost it in either the final lap or the penultimate lap because I've just pushed too hard, taken a bit of curb, done too much, and when my tyres were a bit, the car was a bit unbalanced, it was a bit skittery, and I do wonder if it's that I've just been pushing really, really hard, and I've just shredded my tyres.
Yeah, I think that's what possibly happened to me. Although I felt like there was still some grip there, but I think because I was pushing that hard, I was spinning out and making mistakes and just trying to catch back up. But I think that the level of realism is there, and I don't know, it's good.
It was good. It was discounted on PS4. So if you picked it up, Nick and Mark.
Yeah, but they picked it up.
Nick and Mark both picked it up, and then do you know what? The other day it was discounted on Stadia as well.
Oh, did you pick it up?
I thought, do you know what? I might give it a go and just see what it's like. So I can, because I've had my PlayStation up in the office for a bit, so I thought I could try it on the big screen on the TV.
How was it?
It's been refunded
Refund
before the 2 hours was up. Do you know? I've put a lot of time into F1 on the PS4 in the past couple of weeks, months now, isn't it? And I feel like I've found my flow, and I'm only on a controller, but I feel like I'm reasonably good now. I'm not as jittery as I used to be. I found my braking and accelerating points that and I could not get to grips with it on the Stadia in the same way. And I don't know whether it's just the difference in the controllers, or whether it is genuinely that it's such a fast game and there is just a little bit of imperceivable input lag that it was putting me off. I've never had that problem. I'll be honest. I'm not a Stadia apologist. You've heard, if you've listened to previous episodes, about my my grievances with the system and what it could have been and what it is. But I've never felt that I've needed to refund a game before because I felt, oh, this is a bit laggy or it's not really playable. But this one, it's so quick. I could not nail the controller settings.
I had the issue when I tried Grid when we had the free pro trial earlier this year, and it felt laggy. It's fractions. It's absolute fractions. It's something that doesn't matter in a third-person action game. Something like Tomb Raider, you don't care. But in a racing game, you notice it, and you feel like you're not in control. And it was a bit the same with Thumper as well. I tried that because that's a reactions-based game, and it's like something like 2 or 3 frames. It's barely anything, but it's enough to throw you off. And your eyes are not matching what you've not got your hand-eye coordination there because you can't get the input.
As I played Grid, and I didn't feel it was that bad. That was quite playable. But then it's a bit more arcadey and a lot more forgiving, and a bit more let your back end go out and power through. But that doesn't really work with the F1 cars.
Not really.
No.
So it got refunded before the 2 hours was out. And I'll say that that's the one thing I do like about Stadia is if you buy a game and you play it for less than 2 hours, you can just press a button and get it refunded if you're not happy. So essentially, you get a 2-hour demo of anything that you want to play.
Yeah, that's quite good.
I think that's the same with Steam as well. I think they've got.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
similar principle.
Well, good. So yes, we all played F1 2020, and we'll be continuing to play it on Friday night.
Yep.
In our league. If anyone wants to join us, who's not already in it.
Details below wherever you happen to be listening to this. I'm sure we'll put the details in there. What other car games have we been playing? Because that's probably let's stick with that and then broaden our horizons afterwards.
Literally. I've been playing Dirt 5 Playgrounds.
Oh, yes, you had a preview of that, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So I didn't realise that at the time it was to tie in with Gamescom. Watching Gamescom, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's why the embargo finished at 8 o'clock on Thursday night. So, yeah, it's pretty good. If anybody's ever been to a motor show, the playground side of it is similar to like a stunt show that they're doing that. There is the 2 bits were an indoor arena and then like an outdoor, like in a desert. I think it was in Arizona. And basically, there's a certain amount of pre-set up arenas, like checkpoints that you go through and jumps and things like that. And then you can also make your own. which is pretty cool, and race the communities. If anybody's wondering what it's like, it's very much like in Forza Horizon 3 when they did the Hot Wheels pack. It's that kind of, not as like arcadey, if you like, but it's that kind of, you can even put your rails up and different things and make your track and things like that. And it's loads of fun. You can plumb in all sorts of different cars and whatnot. You know, it was just a preview, just to preview that bit. And it worked, and it was good fun. And I'm actually looking forward to the game releasing, because it'd be nice to do something a bit different other than just rallying, because it will mean that we might get a bit more enjoyment out of it. Not that we don't enjoy it, but you know, when you go out of the starting gate and you go straight into a tree, you're going to struggle for the next few stages, Andy.
It wasn't a tree. It was just a railing on the side of the road.
But at least in this, you can it's still quite tricky, because you have to get the tight turns and whatnot, and there's flaming hoops that you can go through. But it's just one of the new modes that's in it, and yeah, it's loads of fun.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. What about yourself, Matt? What have you been racing on?
Well, sticking with rallying, I've been racing WRC 9. So that's the latest World Rally Championship official game, and it came out today that we're recording this, 3rd of September, and it's all right. I can't rave about it too much, because I really enjoyed last year's, and it's a copy and paste pretty much.
Oh, really?
With 3 new countries in there. They've got New Zealand, Japan, and Kenya this time round, and obviously they've had the team updates and things like that. But the bit I really liked last year, the team management mode, it's exactly the same, even with the same bugs that it had last year. Which is like, it would give you objectives that you couldn't possibly achieve. So you were constantly failing objectives. So you would get objectives like in your calendar event, because it runs in weeks, and you kind of progress time and do events and the actual rallies. And it would do something like, I don't know, take 2 rest periods in 6 weeks. It'd give you that as a first objective, but then not give you control to do anything until the 5th week, and not give you a rest period to work with. So that's it. It's failed immediately. It's things like that were slight niggles last year that you thought, oh yeah, dial those out. It's really good. And it's exactly the same.
That's frustrating.
It is slightly frustrating. What isn't exactly the same, though, is the handling. So they've tweaked the handling model, and it wasn't arcadey last year, but it wasn't dirt rally levels of sensitivity.
Yep.
It feels like they've tried to move it to dirt rally levels of sensitivity, but the tracks are not designed to take that. So the physics model isn't quite like that. So you know dirt rally racing, if you clip a wall with your front wing, you're going to hear it scrape. You'll lose a little bit of speed, but you'll still be on your way, and you're still racing. In this, you're probably on your roof, or facing the other way down the track, or just stop dead. I mean, the number of tiny saplings I ran into that just stopped you dead. It was too sensitive, and it took 4 to 5 hours of playing before I got the wheel settings close enough to be comfortable.
Was that 425 or 45? It sounded like you said 45. I was like,
hours
wow.
of tweaking and playing and trying to figure out, is it just me being terrible at this, or is it the sensitivity of the wheels? And it just took a lot of work. Same with the pad, because I did it on both. I had to play around an awful lot, and I think that handling, that move to twitchier, more realistic handling has actually taken away a little bit of the fun, and definitely taken away the pick up and play.
Oh, okay.
Last year you could pick up and start and enjoy. You can tweak it, but you could enjoy it from the beginning. I felt with this one that I had to faff around way too much to get into it. So it isn't bad at all. It's a good game, and as a licensed game, it's very good. I mean, they're losing the licensing. Is it 2 years? It goes to Codemasters. Is it 2022? They take over, or 2023? I forget which one it is.
Yeah.
But actually, there's a very, very competent and thorough game in Kiloton's offering. It's just not as much fun as last year's. I think it had gone a little bit too hardcore.
That's disappointing, because I actually enjoyed last year's flavour over Dirt Rally, just because I thought it was a little bit easier to control and
Yes.
a little bit less forgiving, a little bit more forgiving even.
Yes, that was what happened last year, and that team management mode and everything layered on, it produced a really nicely rounded game.
Mm.
And I think it's just lost a little bit this year. So I was a tiny bit disappointed. But if you've not played last year's and you don't mind a bit of hardcore rallying realism, it's a very good game.
Okay.
So it was mixed bag. I did enjoy it. I think if I'd have had a choice, I'd be going on Dirt Rally instead.
Fair enough.
Whereas with last year's, I could have played both because they offered slightly different things.
Oh.
Speaking of games that have changed their direction a little bit.
Segueing for me as well.
Yeah.
Slight tweaks.
I'm just going to go and grab a drink while you talk about the game that won Best Sim at Gamescom.
Ali's going to turn his mic off so he doesn't offend anybody at all.
But that's not going to happen.
My other racing game on the wheel was Project Cars 3. And Project Cars 3 has gone from that sim, as you say, Ali, to much more of an arcade type game. But it's not actually an arcade game. It still has a lot of the sim elements to it. So it's still got the live track stuff, which is really impressive when you get mixed weather conditions and over time. And the handling model, I think they've made it easier to just get on board with. It's very tail happy. Almost every car slides its rear end out, but it's catchable. You're not spinning off into the grass. But it's kept the strict track limit stuff as well. So you run wide or hit a wall, slowing your lap time, and you'll still get invalidated. So it requires precision and concentration, which is, I can understand why they talked about it being sim-like, even though it's not strictly a sim anymore, because it has a very structured career mode. Mm-hmm. It's a nice game. It's a lovely handling racing game, and it's a great one to pick up and play. It's buggy as though, and that it's the one thing, because Andy asked me the other day, should he get it? And no, not until it's patched, and you've got your wheel. Really seriously, it is a lot of fun, but you've got to persevere with some of the ridiculous. I've put a couple of bits up on Twitter of the controls going crazy and not letting me select anything. I can't get into the Rivals multiplayer stuff, which is like the daily, weekly, monthly challenges. It doesn't let me select an event. The trophies are glitched. It's as with WRC9, actually. Trophies were glitched there as well and didn't pop. But it's just like, how can you produce such a nice handling game that badly needs an anti-aliasing patch, but then your front end is shit? It's really, really bad.
It's like Slightly Mad's kind of thing, isn't it? They'll take a product and they'll give it a certain amount of hype. If you remember, we were at EGX and we met Rod Chong, and his whole thing was about how this is the most comprehensive. It's going to be the best racing sim ever to pick up and play on a controller. And out of the box, it is impossible to play on a controller. Project Cars 2.
But with Project Cars 3, they've said, we've really focused on the controller.
Exactly the same.
We have done that. It is so easy. And no, it's not. I had to tweak for ages to get it playable on the controller again.
It's like the video game version of The Boy Who Cried Wolf, isn't it? We don't believe you anymore.
But it's actually a good racer. That's the thing. It is a very good and entertaining racer. It needs work, and hopefully, well, this will probably be the last one in the series because it's Codemasters now. They probably won't publish under Bandai. I expect Bandai Namco had some kind of contract which required the third game. But yeah, it's just get those bits right. Get your user-friendly bits right, and you already have a great engine.
Yeah.
So just get it. A couple of decent patches, and this could be one of the best racing games of the year. Right now, people will be frustrated and put off by how difficult it is to get to where you want to go.
It's that weird thing. It's fallen into that no man's land, hasn't it? In that it was a crowd-funded simulation game, and they've kind of upset all the people that were behind that particular ambition. And for the people who might be more invested in a slightly more arcadey racer, they're still protesting that it's a simulation. So I feel like their messaging isn't quite clear.
No,
because everything I've seen, everything I've heard is basically, what one group of people find completely alienating and abhorrent about it is exactly what the opposite group of people like. But I just don't know where to land on it.
Given it was actually a bit of a surprise announcement as well, as far as games go, do we get 2 months, 3 months notice?
Yeah, something like
that. It was coming. It was quite rapid, wasn't it? Really, in comparison to some stuff we see.
For me, it stinks of them having a contract obligation to release another game before they go over to Codemasters under the Bandai Namco banner, and they just went, let's just chuck this out.
It gives me the impression that they're heading back towards their kind of Need for Speed shift heritage, and that's probably what we'll get under Cody's.
You know what? It is a lot like that. There's an insane amount of tracks. There's a huge amount of cars. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of different events. Some quite nice, interesting events. That's not just purely racing. And some of the rivals, when you can get into a rivals race, some of the challenges they're putting up are brilliant. There's basically a faux F1 one at the moment where you're driving what they call a Formula X car around Monza in the absolute rain. I mean, there's standing water all over the place. And it's such a brilliant feel because you can see these puddles and you can see yourself spinning off the track as soon as you touch them. It really works. When it all comes together like that, you're just like, this is great. And then you drop out of the menu and it does something wrong. Or if you cannot swap a controller. If I start the game in with the wheel and stick it into rest mode, put the wheel away, and then start it back up with the pad, I have to quit the entire game because the controller will not respond and the game will not respond to anything but what was originally plugged in. It's things like that, which no other game in the world has that issue. It's just like, come on, there's some daft, almost QC bits that have been missed.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I'd read was that you can't back out to your garage. You've got to go back to the main menu. If you want to tweak things in a race, you've got to go back to the main menu and then go through the process of setting it up again.
There's some silly things like that, and it's just needed some logic applying that it doesn't have. But then you get into a hot lap, and all the purpose of the hot lap is just putting in a time lap within the parameters it's giving you, and you can spend hours just perfecting your lines and mastering it. It does work really well when you're playing it. It's just the UI that's terrible. Anyway,
well, in my desire to play something different I haven't played before, I ended up picking up instead of going for Project Cars 3, I ended up picking Assetto Corsa on the PS4 up.
Ooh,
for Competizione?
No,
standard.
The standard one, but it was like I got that and the season pass for £10.
Oh, that's good.
It's in the sale at the moment, so the game was like £6, and the season pass was down there for about £4. And I thought, well, for that, I'm just going to give it a go and see what it's like. And I've not played much yet, but it's I've done some of the Abarth racing and trials and stuff, and it's all right
on the PC because you can mod it. That's one of the highly rated sim games on PC. Because of the amount of mods you can do, and people have made them so the graphics are a lot better and things like that, and it's still up there for a lot of people. A lot of people swear by it. I've got it on PC. I think I've got my Xbox as well. But yes, that's a really good racing game.
I'll be putting more time into that in the next week or so. Yeah,
cool.
But £6, for £10 for that and the DLC, I thought you can't really go wrong, can you?
No,
yeah, that's a bargain.
So has anybody else been playing anything fun?
Well, racing wise, because I went away last week for 5 days, I took my Vita with me.
Did you?
And it's probably the first time it's been switched on for at least a year, probably longer. And I played Wipeout 2048.
Nice.
Because I'm still going through that. And what else did I play? Lego Batman, because I got that on there, and some Everybody's Golf.
Cool.
Oh, that's
as well.
that is a great version of it on there, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is proper fun. I've hit a particularly tricky course. I think it's one of the Arabian ones where the bunkers are actually like sand wormholes. They're horrible. But yeah, it's a very good game. But yeah, I got sucked back into Wipeout, and when I came back, I've actually set the beta up so it's sat under my desk, ready to pick up and play Wipeout whenever I feel.
Oh, that's nice. I've played quite a lot of Super Hot Mind Control Delete.
Oh,
Not a racing game, but definitely, meets that slightly trippy.
Yep.
I started it. I think I'd done the first couple of, would you call them chapters? I don't know if you would. It's a bit
nodes.
Weird. Yeah, nodes.
Might call them nodes. Yeah. I think I've gone up to 5 now, and I've unlocked quite a lot of the other features. So the game is very different to the original Super Hot, even though the premise is essentially the same. And I went back and played the original Super Hot to see, kind of just compare and contrast. It's really good. So in Mind Control Delete, you get different mods, don't you, and cheats and hacks that as you're playing through, all of the levels are kind of randomly generated.
Yes.
Procedurally generated. So you never get like the 2 playthroughs that are the same, which is awesome. But as a result, when you die, you have like a block of levels, don't you? In each node, you have a block of levels, and you have to play through. And as you progress through each of the different levels that you do, you can unlock different hacks on that particular set of levels. It's sounds hard to explain, but you might pick up something like, something that makes your bullets ricochet off a wall towards the nearest enemy. Or, you might have the ability to always start with a katana or a random weapon. And as you go through, you get some really, really awesome hacks.
Sounds like fun.
It is. I need to go back and play a bit more.
But it is definitely worth, for the cost of it as well. It's not expensive. It's well worth picking up.
If you own the original anyway, you got it for free.
Oh yeah, if you bought the original, yeah, you should just get it. So definitely go and play it because it's super hot. Yeah.
Should we change the pace a little bit? Myself and Matt, I think, have been playing Wasteland 3.
Yeah, well, you say we've been playing it. I went through the sort of like opening cutscene last night, and I've done the first couple of encounters, so it's less than half an hour into it.
Okay, I've put a few hours into it. Another game that's on Game Pass. It's like an XCOM game, but you're actually roaming the world. It's very much original Fallout kind of style of game with a lot of comedy to it as well.
It's the team, isn't it? It's the original Fallout team, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. So it's isometric, and you're running around basically trying to repair the world, I guess, that from the fallout and things that have happened, and you're like a marshal, so you're kind of helping people in need and different things. But there's just lots of the traditional kind of XCOM combat where it's all turn-based, and you can set up like ambushes, as they call them, where it's the Overwatch ability. Someone moves into your line of sight, you shoot them. You get a few more characters in your team. There's a lot of customization to it. You get to name them all. It's heavy on the RPG, which I don't mind.
Yeah, I noticed that with the character creation. It's probably why I've only played a small amount of it, because I spent way too long making my own characters instead of using the presets.
Yeah, so I made my first 2, and then you get another 4, I think it is, in your team. And I picked people that had the right skills at the time that I felt like I needed, rather than messing around with it. The beauty is, if anybody's playing it and you see a pile of snowballs, you can walk up to them and wee on them and then throw them at enemies.
Why can you do that?
I don't know. I walked up to it and it says, "Oh, pile of snowballs. Do you want to pick them up, or do you want to urinate on them, or walk away?" Like, well, when in rain,
obviously,
yellow
I'm
snow,
going to urinate on them.
And then it says pick them up, and then it goes into your inventory, and then I've not actually thrown one at an enemy yet, but you can actually throw them at an enemy.
You absolutely know there's got to be a trophy in there for not pissing on a ball of snowballs, right?
Yeah. Or getting a headshot with it or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good game. There's a lot of humour to it. Some of it's a little bit dark, and
it's a bit brutal, isn't it? First opening is
yes. And is it? You said it's XCOM like. Is it in kind of defined levels?
No,
limited play areas, or is it just the whole thing is like an isometric open world?
Yes, it's isometric open world, but the combat is actually XCOM. Once you get into combat, it then goes into your turn-based.
That sounds really interesting.
Stuff. Yeah, it's good if you've definitely got Game Pass, and if it's on Ultimate as well, so you can play it on PC or Xbox. It's definitely worth a play. I've not played enough to kind of elaborate on it more. I've had to replay a few missions that went a bit south, but it's good fun.
As it reminds me, I've been playing Narcos, which I think you reviewed.
Yes,
quite a while back. Yeah, it was an offer while I was on holiday with the Switch, and I'd been watching a lot of Narcos on Netflix, and I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to go do that. That really scratched my isometric turn-based shooting mechanic. Surprisingly difficult as well.
Yeah, it's not an easy game, is it? You think it is, and then you're dead, and you go, oh, what happened there?
Yeah. But I really like the sound of Wasteland 3. That sounds right up my street.
And you can even you can charm pets on it as well, and then like the cat or the dog or whatever rabbits will give you a certain buff and things. You have to obviously get the skill to do it, but you can actually charm them, and there's a point where a cat actually is part of your crew. You can't control it, but then it will just start attacking stuff for you.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah,
I'm still intrigued by the covered snowball.
Oh, well, whilst we're on the isometric vein, puzzles, Peaky Blinders Mastermind. I played that, which is an isometric game, but there is combat, but it's not turn-based combat as such. How will I explain it? It's based on the TV series. It's like time manipulation.
Oh, okay.
Is the TV series about time manipulation?
No, the TV series isn't. The game.
Because if it was, I feel I may have watched it at least once. I think it was about time travel.
Yeah, it's you have a crew, you have to go do objectives, and the point is you need to coordinate all the crew to do things at the same time or to complement each other or help each other out. And because you control one character at once, when you've done a set of moves with one character, you rewind time, do them with another character, rewind time, do it again, and you end up skipping backwards and forwards in time to coordinate everything.
It's kind of like a puzzle. Then you've got to get all the pieces in the right place, as it were.
Yes.
By the end of your playthrough.
Yeah, it is very much that, and it does work really well. Actually, it's a surprisingly deep game for it. When it really lets you off the leash to do it, there are 10 levels. It kind of lets you off the leash at about level 8.
Oh, okay.
Where the early stages are, it's only one or two characters. They're very short. Whereas it starts to open up a bit, and they can take. I mean, every level has a completion time. If you run out of time, that's it. You're basically rewinding everybody to try and figure out where to save time, so you don't run out later on. It's quite interesting. There's no game over. There's no fail state. You just rewind and try again.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I did quite enjoy it. I did. I was surprised, knowing nothing about the show and still no real desire to watch the show from it. But I enjoyed the game.
Sounds like a one to pick up if it's on sale or something. Yeah.
I'd recommend it. It's a good 5-6 hours long.
Okay.
In total, it's not going to kill all your time, and you'll whip through the first sort of 5 missions in probably less than an hour and a half.
Although, saying that, in terms of value for money, you did spend 45 hours getting your controller settings right in WRC 9. So
yeah. I didn't pay for that game. That's exceptional value for money, is that one?
Okay, yeah, good stuff. So I think that leaves, as far as I'm aware, kind of one thing on the table, or at least not on the table, about 30,000 feet above the table.
Yeah. So I guess you're on about the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, the beast that it is to run. It's very interesting what they've done with it. So they've used all the big maps to basically generate the world. They've gone to the effort of elaborating on some of the textures in certain areas and certain airports. Some of it, unfortunately, is behind a paywall, but the airport's still there. So like Heathrow, you can get a better version of Heathrow if you pay for it. But there are modders bringing out other things. Yeah.
I didn't know it was like a DLC monster as well.
A little bit. So like the 787, you can't get that unless you get the £109 version.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah. But, it is what it is.
That's still considerably cheaper than a 787.
It is, yes, yeah. The weather in it's amazing. There's even live weather. It's a little bit buggy.
Yeah.
But it's just nice just to kind of get in an aircraft. And so my nearest airport's East Midlands, where I used to work. So the first thing I did was jumped in that and flew over Donington Racetrack and, just flying around. There are online elements. It's just an absolute beast to run. And I'm on various groups and things just because it's a while since I've used a flight sim. Loads of buttons and different things to get to grips with and knowing your V speed and all this kind of stuff. But a lot of people are having the same issue, regardless of how powerful it is. And basically the game's just not optimized good enough.
Okay.
So it's struggling, but it's not really maxing out your graphics card or maxing out your CPU. It just kind of doesn't know what to do with itself. It's not using all your threads.
It's
and
kind
stuff.
of throttling.
Yeah. So it loses people like, I'm going to upgrade, and it's like, no, just wait. A couple of months. I've just done one patch to fix a few bugs, but that was mainly for crashes and things. So it's Asbo that have done a lot of the work on it, and to be fair, it's good. I can run it at a stable 30 frames per second on Ultra, but then it goes up to high end, so I can't quite go that high. And yeah, it just takes a while when you first load in. It's loading a lot of textures and areas.
If it's the full world, I kind of sort of understand that.
Yeah, but it's really good. It's kind of taking me back to the days when I did used to work for an airline, and I used to go around. One of my mates that had one of the older flight sims, so we're talking 15 years ago now, and we used to borrow some of the old flight logs that weren't being used and plumb them in and fly to like Jersey and land it and stuff. And it's good fun. It's on Game Pass Ultimate. I have to mention that because obviously it's only on PC at the minute. Apparently it is coming to console at some point. I don't know when. Possibly by the end of the year. I would recommend running it on a PC mainly because you're going to have a lot more buttons at your disposal. So I'm using
you're going to need at least 26 keys, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'm using my HOTAS, so I've got the throttle and joystick and all that, and it works really, really well. I'm really enjoying it. It's just taking a bit of time because I'm having to learn things like learning how to use autopilot and figuring out how to do the pitch of the aircraft. So it doesn't, like whenever you let go of it, it just doesn't pitch down and it automatically trims it for you and things like that. But yeah, it's really good. And the ambition, I think, has paid off. If you go on any of these forums, there's a lot of people moaning, but there always is with these things. But yes, it's a bit buggy, but the stuff that they've managed to add into it, the fact that you can fly anywhere in the world. I flew around Disney. We were supposed to go into Florida this year, so I said to my wife, come on, let's have a laugh and fly around and different things. And we managed to fly around the Disney parks and things like that, and the people are going all over the world. And because it's live weather, Hurricane Laura, that was just in the Gulf of Mexico, you could just go and turn on live weather and you can actually see it and go, right, I'll go to that airport and I'll fly up and fly through a hurricane.
It does look impressive. I mean, the community's been posting quite a lot of screenshots of it, and it looks gorgeous. And then, of course, we've seen all the news reports of like the mysterious monoliths in Australia, and was it the 212-story mystical tower?
Yeah,
because somebody had keyed the wrong number of floors into the map data.
Yeah,
brilliant! They should have just left it in there as well. They've corrected it now, haven't they?
I think so.
The map data's been refreshed.
Yeah.
But I love that idea that you've just got these strange monuments kicking around the world.
And obviously, depending on how powerful your PC is, you can have live air traffic control. You can have live aircraft flying around. You can do all that. There's traffic moving around on the floor or on the ground. The roads are live. It's even animals. People have been to like Africa and places and found giraffes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
It's crazily ambitious what they've done with it.
Flying over Area 51, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's all there.
So you've got your trim assigned to something on your HOTAS.
Yes. Yeah.
And are you tempted to invest in a pair of rudder pedals?
No. Well, yes, and so my old Thrustmaster pedals,
I
can use.
Yeah, I was wondering about
that. But the HOTAS actually twists, so I don't need the rudder for that. I could use it as brake and stuff, but at the minute I don't need to do it because I can just twist my joystick and it will do the rudder for me. It's a bit hard to explain, but yeah, it's got a twisting motion.
I think we all understand you twisting your joystick.
For now, yeah.
Bless you. But yeah, no, there's loads to it, and there's also loads of mods that you can put onto it as well. So you can actually set up your own airline using something called FS Economy, and make your own airline, and you can actually pick up passengers. And then there's just a little program that runs in the background that tracks the flight and makes sure that you don't use like a time speed up and things like that. And you actually generate money. So there's like a little bit of a third-party career mode in it if you so wish.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's the type of thing that would completely consume your life.
You could proper. Yeah. I mean, look how geeked out I get over Train Sim World 2. Look, just because it includes the Bakerloo line. Imagine if someone let me loose on an actual airline.
But the amount of like things that you like, there's so many websites out there where you can actually plan your route, put in all the marking points where you have to plumb it all into the
waypoints.
Yeah, and even like the altitude that you need to be at for the proper approach into an airport. You can even do the air traffic control stuff, and then you just go and plumb it all into the autopilot.
Does it have ILS and everything when you're coming in to do a landing?
Yes, some of it's a little bit buggy or broken, but yes, it does. It does have all of that.
Oh man, that's amazing.
But yeah, it's good. Not really much else to say about it, really. There's plenty to do in the free version, and that's all I'm running at the minute.
It sounds like there's a ton of stuff to get into.
Yeah, and I've not even tried flying the A330 or the 747 yet.
Yeah,
I was going to say, so what aircraft does it come with then, the free version?
Loads. So there's various different Cessnas that scale up because they have different Garmin navigation dashboards on them. So some of them have they're fully automatic if you want it to be, and then you've got your basic Cessna, which is something like you'd go up in a flight if someone booked you a pilot's day or whatever they call it, like a tester day. And then you've got even the aquaplanes that can obviously land and take off in water. You've got your Learjets. You've got your big ones. So you've got the 747-800 spec and the A320, which is more like what you'd go on holiday in. You can even download livery packs as well for them. There's about 20 aircraft in it, I think. There's a starting one.
Not bad, is it? Yeah,
some of your stunt planes and whatnot, and people are adding to it as well. So there's some content that's free and not free, and I mean, to the point that if you were to go and do, like, you could pretend you were going to Spain, and you even call the air traffic controller to say, right, can you load up the catering? And you open the door for them. You press a button and it opens the door, and they load on the catering, and you fuel in it and get requests the pushback and all sorts. The level of detail is crazy. Already. Yeah. But there are some wicked bugs as well in it, where you see like one of the baggage trucks just go flying off, like it's like turn into Santa's sledge or something. But yeah, it's good.
So if I wanted you to fly over my house and check it out, what would I need to give you, like a grid reference or something?
No. What's your nearest airport? Leeds Bradford. Yeah. So I'd just tell me where you live on Google Maps, and I'll find it.
Right, I might have to do that.
Yeah, I'll live stream it if I can.
I think we're almost on the approach for Leeds Bradford, so yeah,
be easy enough.
It was a nice little roundup. I mean, we've seen out the hour, so
by quite a way.
Yeah, we didn't even
mention trimmed down quite dramatically.
Yeah, we didn't even mention Ghost of Tsushima.
That was the podcast we were meant to do, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So we live to do that one another day.
So that one will come at a later date, because we're joking, but we did say we would do one, but we actually kind of all need to have at least got somewhere near finishing the story before we do that, and we all keep getting sidetracked.
Yeah, I play racing games now.
Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
That's what I do. Yeah.
So, Ghost of Tsushima podcast to come in the future when we've all got to at least Act 2.
All right. Well, thank you very much, boy. There's been a really interesting discussion about games and what we've been up to, and thanks for converting me into some kind of freakish sim racer. That's always good.
Yeah.
Your conversion's not complete until you actually have a steering wheel, pedals, and some form of a stand for them to go on.
I know, but look at this. Like, honestly, like 12 months ago, I was just like, oh, shut up, racing boys. And now I'm there going, well, when you look at the price point of the Logitech G923, it's almost comparable with the Vanatech CSL Elite. Like, I didn't even know what those words meant a year ago.
And now both of those things in your Amazon wish list?
No, not that bad. Crikey. Though I did set up a couple of camel alerts for price drops on things.
You'll be lucky.
Anyway, all right. Yeah, look, join our Discord because it's a lot of fun. If you do enjoy this kind of nonsense, then join us when we're not doing this, and come and have a chat on a day-to-day basis. It's good fun.
Andy sends a morning when he can.
I do try. Yeah, I'm very polite and pleasant and nice, and sometimes I send interesting pictures.
Yep.
Yeah,
I make that sound. You see, now I've just made that sound intriguing, and really, it isn't.
Don't undersell it. We're trying to get more people. Don't put them off before they're in that look.
Right, thanks very much. If you want to get in touch, then either join the Discord or tweet at Codec Moments, and we'll be back soon. All right, bye.
Bye.
In a